Welcome back, creative friends. It is day 20 of the Inktober Tangle Challenge, and today we're exploring the Tangular Tangle. I'll show you a simple version as always, and then move on to something a little bit more complex. To start on this bijou tile, I'm going to take my pencil and just draw an X in the middle. I'm going to start here in this corner that was created by those two crisscrossing lines and drawing an L, and then inside of the L drawing a square. I'm now going to add two little triangles by drawing from the end of that L to the square, and then on the opposite side of that square. And now I'm going to fill those in with solid ink. Inside the larger square, I'm going to draw a smaller square by just adding two lines. And then I'm going to fill that in with black ink as well. I've switched to my Graphic 1 pen just because it's a broader tip and I can fill in the square a little bit more quickly. I'm now going to repeat those steps 3 more times. So in each of those 3 corners that were made by that original pencil line. So an L shape or an L line and a large square, 2 small triangles, so drawing one on either side or drawing behind that large square with a diagonal line, filling those triangles in with black ink, and then drawing a smaller square within the larger one and also filling that in with ink. Take your time, press pause, and I will see you when you are ready to do some shading. The shading is pretty simple on this one, so I'm going to just draw on that original L, and I'm just drawing in the empty space that's there. So you also might see a triangle here, or maybe you're just crossing the white areas, however you see this. And I'm also going to add on these outside corners some graphite. And a quick little smudge with the tortillon, and it gets blended into that paper. Well, that was a pretty quick and easy one. Don't worry, I'll complicate it for you the next one. So going ahead and filling out the back of the card. That was a really bad teacher joke, wasn't it? Anyway, day 20, Tangular, super simple fragment of a tangle. But we're about to get more complicated. So I'm going to do this on a black tile, and I'm using a white jelly roll pen, and I'm starting off with a size 05, which is not my favorite because I don't think it flows as well as the broader tipped ones, but I do want to use the thinner line to start with. So I've added 4 dots to the corners, and I'm connecting them with a line to create a border. All right, I'm going to mark a couple of dots on every side of this border because I'm going to be drawing lines across the space, and I'm trying to divide the space up evenly into 3 equal parts. So by adding 2 dots, hopefully I can connect them um, and everything is even. You will shortly see that it's not as even as it could have been, but I just kind of don't stress too much about that these days. Now I'm going to draw some diagonal lines. So I'm starting in one of the corners and I'm drawing to the opposite corner. And so that diagonal line is dividing 3 of those squares. And I'm going to do the same thing to the right of it in just one of the squares. And then I've flipped it and done it a third time. So a very long diagonal line in the middle and then 2 smaller ones at the top and bottom. I'm now going to turn the tile and do a few more diagonal lines going the opposite direction. So what happens is there's this kind of large rectangle now in the middle of this tile. I'm now going to fill in each one of these triangles with the Tangular tangle, or fragment actually, I think is really what it is. So because of the way that I set the grid up for you, you don't really have to think this part through. I mean, the L will only fit one way inside of each of these triangles. So you're just drawing an L where you're essentially auraing the corner of each of these triangles. And I decided to kind of batch this tile, meaning do all the L's at once, then do all the squares, etc. So go ahead and take your time and meet me when you are ready to do the next step. So if you remember the first the first tile, all of these L's and squares were pointing out from each other. But for this one, all those squares are going to kind of kiss in the middle. They're going to touch at their corners. So you can see right here, um, I'm actually just drawing them both at the same time. And you can see where they have an intersecting point. Don't have to do it that way. You don't have to go across. You could draw each square, but I like the flow of the lines when they're drawn this way. So see here, I've drawn that square, and then I'm turning and drawing the other one. We're now going to draw those 2 little triangles. So it's just a long diagonal, drawing behind the square, and then continuing on the other side. So diagonal, pick up your pen, and then draw the other side. So we're starting here on the end, stopping at the square, picking it up, and then continuing on the other side. We'll go ahead and do this on all of your triangles. Inside each of the squares, I'm going to draw a smaller square. And then inside each of those squares, I'm going to draw another square. So there's 2 smaller squares inside the larger one. So it's a little variation from that first tile that we drew. You you can see I keep turning the tile with this one because these lines are straight and there's so many of them. There's so many different angles. So I keep turning. Um, I like both organic and geometric. I think the challenging part of the geometric tangles like this are, you know, when things don't line up, it's a lot more obvious than if you're doing a more organic tangle. However, when we add the shading, or in this instance, the white charcoal, which is more of a highlight, then it, it kind of softens up any kind of um, line that might not be drawn as perfect as we might want it to be. Because there's definitely a line in mine that is very frustrating, but um, it was a good lesson in letting go. Just keep moving. Next up is to start filling in a lot of things. So not only do these small squares need to be filled in, but also the small triangles. So there's going to be a lot of ink used here. I've switched over to my size 10 pen. I much prefer it because I think it flows a lot better than the 05 size. Um, but there's a lot to fill in, so enjoy it. And I will meet you when it's time to add the charcoal. So one tip I give my students when we're coloring things is to color in the middle first. Because when we do that back and forth motion, that's when we get outside of the lines. And yes, of course, there's a time and a place for coloring outside of the lines. But for an artwork like this, Zentangle is a lot more controlled. It's not necessarily about expressionistic lines, or expressive lines. So neatness is a factor. And so this is just a way that I feel like I can color more neatly. So I color quickly in the middle to start, and then I go around the outside edge, um, just like that. So color in the middle, and then just a little ink on the side and ink on the side. And it looks great. I'm using a white charcoal pen here. Charcoal pen, oh my goodness, it's late. I always edit my videos at night, and sometimes it's been a long day and I'm tired. The words don't come out as well. I am now adding some charcoal with a charcoal pencil, a white charcoal pencil, and I'm just kind of crossing over those black areas that are inside. So just right at the edge there and then across there. And then I'm also going to add some white charcoal here. So even though those two squares are touching or kissing in the middle, I'm going to add a little white L shape on the outside of them. And then, of course, blending everything in to soften it up. At the last minute, I decided to add a little bit more charcoal, so I just ran the pencil across the grid lines that are still visible, just those diagonal lines, and then the vertical and horizontal ones as well. I also last minute decided to add some charcoal here to the border. I wasn't really liking that thin white line going around the edge. And if I'm being honest, I think if I redid this tangle, I would draw that original grid and border in a graphite pencil. Sometimes the grids look good in pen, but I think that this one maybe not so much, but it is what it is, and this is just my way of solving that problem. is just adding some charcoal here. And I like this kind of softer, wider border than I did that thin white line. And there we have the Tangular Tangle. This one was new to me. Um, I think it's pretty simple, and I think there's a lot of ways that you could explore this fragment and turning this way and that way. And yeah, I could definitely get into this one a little bit more and explore what I could do with it. But yeah, so Inktober Tangles, we are on day 20, and this is the Tangular Tangle. Thank you again for joining me on this Tangle journey, and I look forward to being with you again tomorrow. Have a good one.